So we're going to move on to our presentations, and we're going to start, let's say, before we start the presentations, I always like to say, anyone who kindly puts the effort and time into doing one of these presentations, we just as a way of saying thank you, like to give them a package of Burmese colored thorn needles. And the needles come courtesy of Steve O'Neill and Andy Briggs of the company Burmese Colored Needles in England. And I want to thank both of these gentlemen for helping us out with this. So we're going to start with Trevor Como. And Trevor, how about we have you unmute yourself and you're going to show us a couple of machines in your collection.
Alrighty, first time doing this, so do I hit the share screen?
I can see.
No, we
can see right there.
You can see me? All
Yep.
right. Here, my son is going to help me out here.
Awesome.
Alrighty. So this is my first time doing the presentation, so I'll try and keep it interesting. I got two models today, the M17 McLaughlin and the M25. They're a little bit different. There's lots of information on the CAP's website itself. So I'll let you peruse that. Today I'm going to go through a little bit of the operation. We'll start with the M17. Now, if anybody knows about these McLaughlins, the Fletcher arm made in Chicago was kind of like a custom parts for cars. They're not OEM. So the furniture manufacturer McLaughlin was famous for making furniture. What they did was get into gramophones and released a press release saying they were going to basically take over the market. This is the new wonder of the world. The main reason is this little weight here with the Fletcher arm. It can play Pathé, Victor Columbia, or even Edison discs. So I will show you that today. There's two different configurations of the reproducer head. It can play the regular Victor Columbias in that position, and Edison and Pathé in this position with moving the weight. So I'll give you a little example here. This is kind of a rough head, but it also has a tone control on the side. So you can change the volume and the tone.
Oh.
Just a slider underneath the tone arm. But for an older machine, it doesn't sound too bad. So now, if you wanted to change this up, this is where it's going to get interesting. An actual Edison disc, just a little snug going onto the spindle. And then this weight here, it rotates to the Edison setting. Change the needle. Now, if I had a sapphire tip needle, that would be good, but just to give you an idea how this guy goes. And there you have it, an Edison disc on a McLaughlin. Now that in itself, I was kind of impressed with. A lot of these are not in playable condition because of these tone arms. The tone arms inside it has hot metal that expands and basically destroys the housing rings. My last one, this is a family piece, quarter sawn oak and mahogany. It actually split the ring. So I don't know if you can get a look at this. That's my replacement for the pot metal. It's actually a plastic ring with 3 bearing chases in it. The important part is these 2 set screws have to go on the balance point of the tone arm, and that's a restrictor to keep it from flipping all the way around, up and down. But that is basically what I replaced the pot metal with, and actually got it functioning. I don't know if I can reproduce it, but that's the way we go on that one. So which was really good for me was this is, a family piece, and we kept it alive. The second one here, the M25. Oh, let me show you the differences here now. At this point in time, they changed the arm. So it's no longer the Fletcher arm, but it is the Fletcher head from Chicago. So this one will play a regular Columbia. But the main differences was at this point, and I do have some left, it was a card flip out filing system. So they sat in there and you'd flipped it out to get your record out. So it was interesting to have that as the older version had shelves. So I still have to make up some paper sleeves to get this M25 kind of back to original. But this one was the more luxurious model. You can see the size difference. This is a smaller version. This was their Queen Anne leg one, which was a lot fancier for the time and made out of mahogany and black walnut. Ooh, luxurious. So, so I'll leave you today. I'll play a record. It's just a fun record I have. I thought it was a little bit funny. So I'll play you this one.
Come all you jolly children, and listen while I hum a story I'll relate to you of the great American bum. From the east to west, the north to south, like a swarm of bees they come. They sleep in the dirt and wear a shirt that's dirty and full of crumbs. So it's early in the morning, and the dew is off the ground. The bum arises from his nest and gazes all around. From the boxcar and the haystack, he gazes everywhere. He never turns back upon his tracks until he gets to swear. I picked my way from Frisco Bay to the rock-bound coast of Maine, to Canada and Mexico, then wandered back again. I've met soundclowns and harness bulls as tough as a top could be, and I've been in every calaboose in this land of liberty. I've chopped the fruit and worked the flute, taken a turn at the plow. I've searched for gold in the rain and cold and worked on a river scow. I've dug the clam, built the dam, and packed the elusive screw. But my troubles fail when I hit the trail and pack in my old balloon. Oh, standing in the railroad yard, waiting for a train, waiting for a westbound freight, but think it's all in vain. Going east, they're loaded. Going west, feel tight. I think we'll have to get aboard the Fast Express tonight. Oh, lady, would you be kind enough to give me something to eat? A piece of bread and butter and a 10-foot slice of meat. A piece of pie or custard to tickle me appetite. For really, I'm so hungry I don't know where to sleep tonight. Good morning, Mom.
Good morning, Bum.
I just got in.
Yes, but it was just your house again.
But lady, I'm traveling.
Well, take right on traveling. Who's keeping you?
Honest, Mom, I don't know where my next meal is coming from.
And did you think this was an information bureau?
Lady, haven't you a bite to eggs in the house?
I have that. And a special Irishman coming home at 5 o'clock today. On your way now.
All right. Goodbye, Mom.
Goodbye, Bum.
Oh, sleeping against the station. Nation. That's our recommendation. Hurrah-hurry, hurrah-for, we are three bums, we going on bums, we live like royal dirt. We have good luck in bumming our duck and we never bother the work. I met the man other day I never had met before. He asked me if I wanted a gun, shovel, and iron on. I asked him what the wages were, and he said 10 cents a ton. I said, oh, son, go chase yourself. I'd rather be on the bum. Oh, sleeping in the bogey. Ogie, ogie, ogie. Smoking nice and soaky. Oh, hurry, or we are 3 months. We down your mum. We live like royal sex. We have good luck in bumming our shut. God bless the man that works.
And there you have it, a little fun song. They're beautiful machines as far as workmanship goes. The wood is something that struck me right away. I love working with wood, and there's some stuff I have to repair. I have to make a knob for this crank handle. The heads need reproducing. Here's one that's unfixed. So you can see in the back, it has 4 little holes for the sound. And then they come out, I don't know if you can see it, 6 little holes around there. And it was supposed to improve the sound quality. The problem is these gaskets get so hard that I have to redo them all. So, but that's a little bit on McLaughlin. Hope that was interesting.
It most certainly was. Trevor, can you hear us?
Yep.
Great. Thank you very much for that demonstration. And by any chance, is that Mac, Harry McClintock?
I believe so.
Yes, it is. Because that's the bum song, and this is the bum song number 2. And the flip side of the bum song number 2 is the Big Rock Candy Mountain, which you can currently hear in a Ford truck commercial.
Awesome.
I recognize that one right away. I really like the tone arm on the first one, and I was just wondering, are you using steel needles, or is there something special to play the Edison disc?
At one point, I thought there was sapphire-tipped needles.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure about that, but I was told I could play it with a small needle. And it turns out I gave it a try and it did. So I'm quite surprised that I can play an Edison on a regular player.
Yeah.
But that was the selling point of the McLaughlin, was it played everything.
Right.
Instead of buying all the machines, you could buy just one.
Well, would the Pathé have been Hill and Dale as well? That Pathé record, so like the Edison,
yeah.
So neither of those should have played with a regular needle. So that's really interesting that you were able to do it.
Yeah, the one curiosity is the older Pathés will play from the center out. So it'll actually play in reverse on this machine.
Huh. Neat.
So it starts from the center and works its ways to the edge.
Yeah.
Trevor? Paul's going to say something. Go ahead.
That sort of octagonal or hexagonal tone arm was to get around the Victor patent on the tapered tone arm. And on the Victor tone arm, what they did is they took a piece of tubing and stretched it in order to form the thing. But that's a cast arm, and that's why it has to have that weight on there, because the weight of the hot metal arm is horrendous. And of course, they all cause trouble. And of course, later on, the tapered tone arm patent expired, and that's why the second machine it's a later machine, and that's why it has a different tone arm.
Yeah, and the hinge point as well.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Both of them, even unfully restored, I thought sounded pretty good. So still more work to be done, though.
Looks great.
Good machine.
Trevor, I wanted to comment. So we're going to be sending you a package of those Burmese colored needles. And I know someone who had a similar machine. I think they had a Pathé machine, and they used those needles to play the Pathé records and the Edison. So when you get the needles, give it a try. You might be happy with the results.
In fact, on the website, we have the fiber needle test for McLaughlins.
Oh,
So there's lots of information on our website. So that's where I got most of my stuff from.
awesome.
Can't wait to test them out.
Okay, great. Anyone else have any questions for Trevor?
Oh,
Wow.
I can add another slide.
Okay, Paul, go ahead.
I once upon a time had a Brunswick machine that did actually have an Edison stylus on it.
Ah,
And it looked like a Pathé stylus, except it was pointy. And when I got the machine, it had Edison records with it, and it also had a Pathé stylus. So it was nice. They were both styly available, and you could get them, but try and find one now. It's pretty hard.
yeah, I'm sure. And
I found one and I restored one, and it had the sapphire needle on it, and restored very well. A lady, it belonged to a lady and her family, and they were happy to get the machine back in playing order.
that's great. I have a Brunswick machine too, and you have to lighten the weight for Edison. So there's a sliding weight at the back of the tone arm too to reduce the weight. So cool. Okay.
I found on eBay, I saw on eBay recently a diamond stylus for that. So you could play Edison discs on. And that, I think the person who was selling it was the same person who had the sapphire stylus that I bought for my Pathé discs. And I almost bought the Edison one, but I have almost no Edison discs. And it was like $70 or $80 or something like that. But yeah, so they still do turn up. And the guy I bought mine from is in beautiful shape. So yeah, if it's from a good seller, you can trust it.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom. Okay, so let's move on now. And thank you very much, Trevor and Son, for an excellent presentation. We've never had machines like that shown before, and I'm sure it was new to probably most of us. So we're going to move on next to Mark Caruana. He did an excellent video for us, and I thought, Mark, it's probably better if you introduce the cylinder and / video, since you know so much about it.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah, about a year ago, I bought a group of about 300 Blue Ambrol cylinders. And I was going through the boxes one day, just trying to sort them out. And I saw this one immediately in one of the boxes. It's an unusual cylinder because it's in a tin can, cylinder can, which is very unusual. And it's brightly colored. So immediately I saw, okay, this is really something good. And I opened the cylinder box and realized it was an early wax, like a light cream wax cylinder. And those kind of cylinders are usually quite early. And all the lettering on it was Spanish. So I just kept Google translating things and was able to track down quite a bit of information about it. So the video I made just highlights this interesting recording from about 1890 from Spain. The only shame about the whole story is I bought the cylinders off someone who was selling them for someone else whose father had them. And I haven't been able to track down any information, because it would be nice to know how this thing ended up in Canada in a group of Blue Ambrol cylinders. But I really don't have any story. So everything I do know about this cylinder is in the video. So Mike Bryan, if you want to play it.
Yep. Yep.
I want to say I was quite surprised at the sound too. It was very loud and clear.
Yeah, it's surprisingly good. And it could be like a one-off, like recorded directly by someone singing. Depends how early it is, and I can't narrow that down.
Okay. There we are. We should be getting there. So.
I bought an Edison cylinder phonograph, and there was a box with it with a number of cylinders. And when I went through the box, I found this cylinder, and I just thought, wow, I mean, this is a really beautiful cylinder, and I'm going to show a close-up in a minute. It's a tin can with a colorful lithograph on the outside and a wax cylinder inside. So I looked it up on the internet, and I was so surprised to find out a bit of the history of it. I thought this was really interesting. So I'm going to make a video on this new acquisition of mine, this cylinder. The brand is Hugens. So I'm going to hold it up close so you can see it. I believe it's pronounced Huygens and Acosta. It's a Spanish cylinder made by a company or a group called the Sociedad Fonográfica Española. And the company specifically is called Huygens e Acosta. So I got this cylinder and I looked up some stuff and I found out some information about this company. And it was really an early producer of cylinders. It looked like the cylinder machine made its way to Spain in about 1893. So in 1888, remember, Thomas Edison sort of had his perfected phonograph where he came up with this size cylinder. So this size started around 1888. So it took a few years to sort of really take off. And it made its way in about 1893 to Spain, and the person that founded this company, what was his name? Pedro Armando Huygens, founded this company in 1896, and it lasted for a number of years till I think it was 1905. And the company founded basically was a distributor for Edison products and actually Bettini products, which, if you're familiar with Bettini at all, was an early phonograph pioneer who made a lot of one-off cylinders, custom cylinders from more of the higher end type music, opera and things like that. So he had a lot of really great people singing on his cylinders. And this company was sort of like that. It's a bit like a boutique cylinder company. They made cylinders, they're early wax cylinders. So at that time they weren't duplicating them. They couldn't really duplicate them. They eventually got, around this time, pantographic duplication, where you take one cylinder and put it on a machine and through a linkage play it onto another machine and record on that cylinder. And you could probably do that around 10 to 15 times before the original cylinder just wasn't playable anymore and the quality really suffered. But a lot of these are really, as I understand it, just the original cylinder. That's what they sold. They were quite a boutique company. They were also a big company. They were sort of the biggest distributor and biggest cylinder company in Spain. This company actually sold a lot of cylinders. In around 1901, they reportedly sold about 30,000 cylinders and had 2,000 customers. So it was a big company for that type of thing back then, even though eventually cylinders would be sold in the millions. When I was doing my research, I discovered a paper from the University of Glasgow on early cylinder recording, and it actually stated that these cylinders were quite rare, and as far as they knew, there were only 163 of them around. So that's pretty rare. I have a feeling there's more than that, but who knows, right? That makes this a pretty special find. Let's take a look at the cylinder. I'm going to open it up. It's very fragile because it's an early wax one. It's wrapped in cotton. So this is the cylinder. Here, let's get it out. You can see it's in excellent condition. Unbelievable. Looks like no mold on it at all. The title is inscribed there, and I'm going to give you close-ups of the cylinder in a minute, and we're actually going to play it. I'll play it once. The grooves on it are very light. It's really hard to see. So I looked up the information on the artist, and this is the information on the lid, and I believe the singer is a woman named Galvani, who was an opera singer in Madrid, Spain at that time, and she recorded a number of songs for this company. As you can see in the clip I got here, the picture from the catalog, I think it's around 1901. It's an opera called Amleto, which was written by Franco Facio, and it's based on Shakespeare's Hamlet. It's the aria in the first act. So, as I said, not much is known about the singer. I couldn't find very much information on her, but let's hear the cylinder. There's a spoken word introduction at the beginning, and to get that to sound like a regular human male voice, I had to slow it down quite a bit. So this cylinder is turning at quite a slow speed relative to what it should be doing for normal cylinders. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video and found this cylinder as interesting as I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
I see claps happening there. Mark, is there anything else you could add about the cylinder since the video was made?
Well, it's interesting that the early cylinders, I don't think they had really settled on a speed for the rotation of the cylinder, which is why I had to try and figure out what would be the correct speed. And it was actually quite slow compared to what you normally would use, that we would be used to. Someone in the chat asked what reproducer I was using. I was using a C, and they pointed out that, you know, I understand that Model Cs are too heavy for brown wax. These early cylinders, I think a Model C is probably okay. That's like the one and only time I've ever played that cylinder. So I figured it wasn't probably not too bad to use a Model C, but there may have been a better choice if I was going to play it long term, but I'm not actually sure what that would be. But I know that Paul Donington would probably know.
If I may interject, the singer is a Spanish coloratura soprano by the name of Maria Galvani. That's how she pronounces it. I have several center start pathes of her where she does her own announcement, and the way she pronounces her name is Maria Galvani. So
excellent,
for what
thank
that's
you.
worth. And the interesting thing is that she passed away. She was one of the first victims of Spanish influenza. Oh. And so her career was cut short by the pandemic, which I think is interesting. But anyway, that's her voice for sure.
What reproducer would you recommend for playing something that early?
Well, what I do, and the way I have played my early Class M cylinders, is by using a Model O reproducer with counterbalance weights on the back. And you can use some kind of like an electrical contact, what do you call it, the jaws, and hang washers on it. And you get it as light as it will play. But the trick is to make sure that there's no run out on the cylinder. If you need to shim it a little bit, you can do that, just to make sure that it's not going up and down a lot. Or some cylinders kind of distort over the years, and the lateral aspect of the grooves can vary. So that's not too good. But if you use the Model O reproducer, I mean, that's a very, very heavy reproducer, and you absolutely have to counterbalance. But I've never experienced any damage to the cylinders doing it that way. And boy, do they ever sound good. They really do.
Now, the reproducer that would have been around at that time would have been the automatic, the Edison automatic. So I'm guessing that's probably the one.
Yeah, it probably was an automatic originally. The reproducer on my Class M is what they call the standard reproducer, which has virtually zero lateral capability. So you can play a record right through with that thing and just get the land in between the grooves. And I don't advise using those reproducers. They're very hard on the records. And quite often you have to tune them in, you have to, that's why there's that little arm on the side. On a Class M, you'll see a little vernier adjustment knob there. And that's how you adjust it so that it's in the groove. So the stylus bar has the cutting stylus. When you move the arm down, it's about 30 degrees, but it's the reproducing stylus if you move it up to the top against this adjusting screw. And it's interesting that that arm stayed on those things. It was sort of like an appendix, a useless appendix for years. I guess it helped you get the thing out, but that's what the arm was originally for, was for that adjustment. And you can see them on the Class M machines. But anyway, that's Maria Galvani, and she was Spanish, and she was quite a gal, apparently. So there you go.
Excellent. Thanks, Paul.
I think she was
Thank you, Paul.
I think she was hot-tempered too. for what it's worth.
Don, I think Don Mayer has a question.
Don?
Don, you're still muted.
There we go. Maybe that'll work. This is, I think, a reproduction of the automatic reproducer.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, you can see the way it's cut below the surface there around the perimeter. And on the back side, it's a little different weight configuration.
Yeah, it's much lighter.
I've never had one of these original ones, although I might have had one slip through my fingers in the early days, not quite sure. These are made by JAS Antiques down in Ohio.
That's great information. Actually, I'm going to try and contact them.
Cool. Mark, what struck me was that for a cylinder that was probably spinning at 125 RPM, there was hardly any wow and flutter at all, and the volume was loud, like it was just stellar. Very well done.
The grooves are very light. I think I might have, when I transferred the video, bumped up the volume a bit, cleaned it up.
Okay.
But it still was, it sounded about that way in real life to me. But the grooves are just so light, I couldn't believe there was any volume at all.
I guess a question that occurred to me is, if that cylinder company was so large, do you know why they went out of business? It wasn't just a sale of disc records that outdid them. Any idea?
No, I'm not sure. I didn't get enough information on that.
Okay.
With Paul here, I know nothing about that company at all. What I do know is that the original musical recordings on Class M machines were 120 RPM or close to it. Yeah. There was an intermediate period about 1897 or 8 where they went up to 144 to try to increase the sound quality, get higher frequencies. And then I think 160 didn't come in really pretty much until after 1900.
Yeah. And Mike, going back to your comment,
yes.
Back then you'd think that maybe it was the disc that pushed them out of business, but the cylinder lasted a long time.
Yeah.
Outside of North America, so I don't know if it would be that.
Okay.
Could you repeat the name of the soprano once again? Because I was really impressed by her, and I'd really like to look for some of her output. And Paul, I'd really like to hear some of your passe center starts from that singer.
Yeah, I think I have 4 of them.
Yeah, and the quality would be much better, right?
Oh, absolutely, and quite sure, especially from a center start record.
Mm-hmm. Well, the idea with the center start was that the sound got better toward the end. So when it came to the end of the record, you were left with the best possible impression.
Yeah, the crescendo gets the greater area of the record, which is really how it should be. And unfortunately, it was one of those Betamax VHS things with the wrong format won out in the end.
Yeah. One thing I might mention too, with regard to the early brown wax cylinders, is that they started pantographing as early as 1891, if not earlier. And I have one cylinder that actually has the date on it that it was recorded. And then after that, it says duplicate, which means that on the master cylinder that they recorded, they must have used that word duplicate. And so that it would appear on every one of the pantographed cylinders afterwards. So it's early, it's 1891.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up this section now. Mark, thank you again for making the video and sharing your wonderful find with us. I can imagine the look on your face as you're going through this whole box of cylinders and you find that one.
Yeah, especially because there were 4-minute celluloid cylinders. Here's this one single wax cylinder.
And you find that one. That's great. Thanks again. Okay, we're now going to move on to Jeremy Hopkin. Jeremy, could I have you step forward? And Paul, your microphone's still on. You have to mute yourself. So you're getting good at this now. Hey, you did it right away.
Okay. Can you see me?
Hi, Jeremy. We can see you, Jeremy. Thank you for joining us today. So we're going to move years, actually, what, about 30, 35 years ahead in technology. And
around
you're going to show us something that was truly the state of the art in its day. It's a 1920, I looked it up as a 1929 Victrola Electrola RE57. I'm sure you can tell us a lot more about it. So how about I let you take over, show us your machine. You've got an excellent PowerPoint that you put together on it. And again, I thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, flip the camera around. It'll be a little easier. I don't have help today, so.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is actually a it was made in 1930. And I think they also marketed it for 1931. It's a Victor Radio Electrola RE57. And it was kind of, well, it was a very high-end one for its day. It cost around $400 in Canada. It cost $300 in the USA. And one of the unique features of it is that you could actually record with it, which, you know, a lot of people knew about recording from cylinder days, but this was one of the first to record on a record. So, but I found this one in 2004. I went to go live in an old house in Scarborough because I was volunteering through the Scarborough Historical Society, and they had someone who had an empty house, and they said, well, we need, you know, to keep insurance going in this house. So we, you know, is there anybody you know that could live there? And I went, I would. So, you know, because I found out what house it was. It was the house of James G. Cornell and the Cornell family, right up Markham and Kingston Road. And so I went there and I asked them, you know, for a few things at the end. They said, oh, sure, we were going to throw a lot of this out anyway. So one thing I did was I grabbed this and a few mementos from James Cornell, who was the original owner of the machine. I got one of his hats. I also got his cane and a few old photos with him in it. And if you look right here, where is he? He's that guy right there in the middle. But he was one of the Reeves of Scarborough in the teens, like during the First World War. And he was also a farmer, general businessman. He also got into the dairy industry, which is why I have this here, which is the Farmer's Dairy. He was one of the three founders of it. Him, George S. Henry, who was a minister of transportation in Ontario, and another fellow got together and started this dairy. Now, I collected all the milk bottles too from his dairy because a lot of the money from the dairy went towards buying this radio. So I eventually found a lot of the Farmer's Dairy's bottles, but these are just the smaller ones that were, but I do have the whole set. But let's see what else. Yeah, so I didn't find any milk bottles on the property, but I did find out the history of them. Eventually, Acme Farmers went on to join, or farmers went on to join with Acme Dairy and became Acme Farmers. And then it eventually got sold out to Silverwoods. But a lot of James Cornell's fortune was made through this dairy. So I'll just clear a lot of this stuff away here now. I'll show you inside the radio and record player. There we go. Oh, there's also an envelope with his signature on it too. Okay. Now, if you wanted to listen to the radio, you could easily open the two front doors here. And it has Victor's microsynchronous grid radio inside here, which is kind of unique. I can't really show you the inside of it the inside of this, but it does have this very strange gang tuning, which maybe I'll be able to show you something else on. But you turn this dial side to side, and inside it has these four arms that sort of rotate and do their thing. And that's the speaker on the bottom. And on the top here, I have I've got some items that I've collected over the years in here. It has a Cobra head reproducer, which is very heavy. And then you can see there, I've got one of the very wide recording needles, which is about 7 mil. And they had these pre-recorded discs, or no, not pre-recorded, pre-grooved discs, which look like this. You throw this disc on, and it had grooves in it already, and it would just follow the grooves. And at that time, this was very soft vinyl, so it would leave an electrical impression inside of it. And you know, the recordings aren't really Victor quality recordings, but you know, it's enough to like write a note or do something like that. A lot of what they marketed these for was, you know, instead of sending a letter, get one of these, put it in one of their envelopes. I've got some right here. Put it in one of their envelopes and then send it to somebody as a letter. So, you know, if you wanted to send a snapshot of your voice to grandma, you'd send that along with one of the home recording needles, and they could play back that recording. So here's a bunch of new old stock recording needles I found over the years. They come in these packages. And this is one of the little sample packages that you'd put in with your record if you wanted to send a little snapshot to somebody. And here's a bunch of other ones too. Over the years, they changed the color of the shank. These were yellow shanks. And here's another little sample pack. See in there, there's the yellow shanks again. And yeah, and these ones had red shanks by the time these came out. But at this point, when these were first marketed, it was marketed as Victor, but by this time it turned into RCA Victor. You could record off the radio, but you could also record if you wanted to. It came with a carbon mic, which I was lucky to find in this. I thought it would be lost. But it comes with a carbon microphone, and you can record your voice onto these, or you can record a sample of radio programs or whatever you want. I'm sure, you know, they also show pictures of people recording whole bands, but I doubt they would record those very well. But there you go, there's that. And I've also found a few things over the years, like this original sales brochure. What else? And I even have this, which I was going to demonstrate, but I don't think there would be enough time, but how to sell Victor home recording. And it has a part 1 and a part 2. And you can find videos of this on the internet pretty easy, where basically it's just a record for salesmen to tell them how to sell home recording, and because it was a new novel concept. And it's pretty interesting how the commentator says, you know, make sure to tell people these aren't going to sound as good as what they hear on their Victor records. And so it's an interesting little record. What else do we got here? The home recording record I showed you earlier was the early version with the white label. That's what they originally had. And then eventually they changed to this orange star label and started making bigger records. This one is you know, much larger than the one that came out originally. And what else did they? And eventually they kind of branched out into other formats. Well, not formats, but other uses. Sorry for the camera, that camera there. They started finding other applications for these to demonstrate them in different places, like the World's Fair. This is a 1933 RCA Victor talking letter, and this was at the Chicago's World's Fair. Just has a different label, but it's the exact same disc as that other one that I showed you. I also have one over here. I've got a few in this box. Well, this one here is a souvenir from the RCA building at Rockefeller Center, and it was kind of the same way. Like they had their advertising here on the back, but really it was just pretty much the exact same kind of record. They just put a new label on it, and you'd go to the studios, and you could record your own voice and say, "Here I am in New York in the world famous RCA building." So, let's see what else is here. Oh, for some reason, this survived all the years. A little bottle of Victor oil for the motor. I've got some tungsten needles here. This here is actually a recording weight. Now you'd think the Cobra Arm reproducer would, weigh enough to, it weighs a lot. But when you went to do a home recording, they recommended that you put this weight on the head to weigh it down even more to get an impression in there. And they also recommended that you put down a regular record first and then put the home recording record in the middle to give it height so that it would push into it. And yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the function goes. One thing this features too is a different logo than the one that you see in the US. It's kind of nice, a bit of a starburst. And let's see. Yeah, I guess that's, I don't know. Is there anything else that you think you'd want to see from this machine? Well, I've also picked up some advertising over the years, which you'll see some of this in the slideshow.
Okay.
They featured a lot of these on the back of magazines and marketed it to the people that had maybe a little more money to spend. But
looks good.
And there's some more just random things that I have with Mr. Cornell inside of it. Here he is christening a bridge that was in, oh, sorry, there's a bit of a reflection here. That was in York County somewhere. He's up there on the bridge looking it over. What else we got here?
So, Jeremy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Does your machine actually work, or does it need to be rebuilt at this point?
It needs to be rebuilt.
Okay.
A lot of the wiring inside is a little iffy, so I don't want to risk even plugging it in.
No, we wouldn't want you to.
But yeah.
Looks like a fabulous machine. Should we show your PowerPoint presentation right now? Which
Sure,
I believe has a lot of the things that you're showing us there.
Yeah, okay.
And can you describe each slide a bit?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. And then once we do that, we can have questions asked. And again, I found a video online of that machine playing. Gives you an idea what it's like.
Okay.
Okay. So Mike Bryan, I guess now can you please queue up the PowerPoint presentation?
Okay. And
what I have here today is a very nice example.
Oh,
of a
no.
1929
Well, okay, we could show the same.
Radio
This is a video I found on
I'm gonna
YouTube of the same machine.
The Electrola is up inside here, as you may see. The radio, it's just a wonderful Jacobine Cathedral radio. It's just really nice with all the layout and everything. I'm gonna fire up the radio, which will switch, turn these on, are all right here. The radio is in on, pretty nice. I'm gonna have a little problem with the doors. They kind of like to creep a little closed on me from where I have it setting, but anyhow, I will be glad today to play a record for you. It is called I Can't Sleep in the Movies Anymore by Billy Jones and Ernie Hare. Anyhow, I've got this already set up. Push it over to the side.
Hey, Bill, what's the idea of squinting your eyes like you're doing?
Well, I've had a lot of trouble with my eyes lately.
Had trouble with them?
Yes.
Well, you'd have more trouble without them, wouldn't you?
Oh, yes, I would.
You know, my eyes have been troubling me.
Is that so?
I blame it on moving pictures. You know, movies hurt my eyes.
Well, movies used to hurt my eyes, but now they hurt my ears.
You know, they used to say that movie actresses were dumb.
Yeah, now I wish they were, Ernie. Just to torture him and me.
We can't sleep in the movies anymore. Lions roar, we shake with fright. We can almost feel them bite. Buildings burn upon the street, and we even feel the heat. up on the dome. They really get so clubby, it makes us think that we're at home. If by chance our eyes are closed, then the villain blows his nose. We can't see to the movies anymore.
Anyhow, when you remove the arm, it shuts off the turntable. You move the arm over to the right, it turns on the turntable very smooth. Anyhow, this unit was set up to record. This switch right here, you can move it to recording from radio, which causes a vibration up this needle when you do that, and you can put it on just radio reception, or you can do home recording, which you would plug in the microphone. There's 2 telephone jacks that would go in here. I don't have the carbon microphone, unfortunately, but anyhow, this weight, which is always missing on these things, would go over the arms such as this. And then I have one original record blank. These are the actual blanks that was used on these machines. You would write your title in on this blank, and then you would set this unit, of course, across the record. Whoop. It's pretty sensitive. Anyhow, that's what the recording blank is, a brand new one. So it's a pretty unusual machine. It had a lot to offer in 1929. These are the actual record sleeves for the 10-inch records. Record storage, microphone storage in hardware for you making recordings. Anyhow, this is a very, very nice example of one of these units. I can show you a little bit about and around back. The only thing I have missing is a few tube shields and our IFRF radio stage. It's got push and pull 45s. They're a pretty neat unit. It's got the synchronous tuning. All in all, it's a really wonderful unit to have. If you're thinking about getting an Electrola, the arm is well balanced. It's the later version of these arms, so I better remove this here. But anyhow, that's what the weight looks like, and it's usually missing on these. Your tungsten needles would go here, needle tin for the steel needles, and of course for your steel needles, they're new ones. Just pretty interesting, pretty nice machine. Good looking all the way around. Anyhow, we're going to be offering this machine for sale in our shop. So if anybody's interested, shoot an email. I'll be talking to you later. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.
I thought that video gave a good tour of the machine itself when you actually hear one working. And again, the sound is quite good.
Oh, yeah.
I think, too, we got to put this machine in perspective, because if you think 5 years earlier, probably even like 3 or 4 years earlier, people were using wind-up acoustic gramophones, and now this machine comes along that not can only play records and you can adjust the volume and get good bass and sound out of it, plus get a radio, plus record your records. So it was really state of the art for its day, just as the Depression starts to come into effect. Jeremy, would you like to quickly show some of the slides? We'll probably have to go through them quickly.
Yeah, that's fine.
We're pressed for time, and I know some of them you've already shown. So you can just talk us through it, and maybe we can talk about the machine a bit more too.
Sure. I wasn't sure what would show up in the video, so yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I can go quick.
Okay. So Mike, you're going to cue the PowerPoint presentation.
I'm just looking for it. Not quite sure why it's not where I saved it.
I had emailed it to you. If you could.
Yeah, no, I've saved it.
Okay, you've got it.
I can't see why it's not in that file. So what I will have to do, bear with me.
Okay. And while Mike's looking for that, I've started to get more interest in these early 1930s Victor machines, because they were so advanced for their time. And what would come in a year or two later would be record changers. So that, and those are really neat to watch. And then also the 33 RPM home playback system from Victor. And ultimately, probably mainly because of the Depression and the cost, none of them sold that well, or that many survived. Okay, Jeremy, here's your PowerPoint presentation.
All right.
I wanted to compliment you on it. It's so professionally done. It looks excellent. I'll let you take it away.
Are you? Can I just ask, are you seeing it all on the screen? Have you got the whole thing?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so this is just a few close-up photos and some details about the radio Electrola. Mine was produced, I think, in 1930, but also marketed in 1931. The one that came out in 1929 looked a little bit different, but it basically had the same insides as this one does, as far as the radio goes. There wasn't home recording on the one that was out the year before this, but there was the radio and record player combination. So this is just a little clip of some advertising from it. If you want to flip to the next one.
Oh, sorry, I have to do, oh, I see. Right, yep.
Okay, now this is some close-up photos of James G. Cornell, who was the Reeve of Scarborough, like I said before, and one of the part owners of Farmers Dairy. He actually even petitioned the Scarborough government to use the streetcar line to transport milk from his farm downtown to have it produced by these by his dairy. And he had quite a bit of political pull, and he was friends with the Minister of Transport, so he actually did have that happen. So he got his milk carted by streetcar downtown.
Jeremy, I just want to interject for, again, there's people all over the place and they may not know, where's this town called Scarborough that you're talking about?
Oh, sorry. Scarborough was a township of its own for about 200 years. It's in the eastern part of Toronto now. It's we all amalgamated together in 1996 to become the mega city. So Scarborough, Ontario is, the eastern part of Toronto now. And it borders on Pickering. So he lived right at Kingston Road and Markham Road, and his family farm was 200 acres. It went all the way from Eglinton all the way down to the Scarborough Bluffs, from about Markham Road over to almost Scarborough Golf Club Road, if anybody's familiar with that area. So he had a pretty substantial farm back then. And then later on, he had no sons or daughters, so he willed the estate to his niece, Helen, who married, I don't know if you've ever heard of the name Albert Campbell, but he was a mayor of Scarborough as well, and the first metro mayor, the first metro mayor basically of Toronto back in the 1950s and 60s. So two mayors have owned this radio over time, but I think James Cornell was the only one who really used it extensively. I think after these home recording discs kind of tapered off, it went down into the basement and the kids used it as a play toy. So, when I found it, it was missing feet. And luckily a lot of the things were still in there because the kids used to play with the microphone all the time and pretend they were singing. And, I guess that's pretty much it for James Cornell. If you want to switch to the next slide. Now, this is the house that I lived in for about 2 years. It still stands at Markham and Kingston Road, just east of Scarborough Village Arena. And it has about 3.3 acres still left there, and barns and a few outbuildings. And it originally started as that house in the top left corner that you see there. It was built in 1836. And then around 1900, they bricked the whole thing over and put a second story with an attic on it. And that's how it appears on the right there. And
sorry,
that's okay. And this is basically how I found it. And it's still how it is now. I really did have great plans of restoring it, but then things changed. So I still have it though, and I still am collecting things to add to it when I do find them. Just a bunch of random different views of the radio. Let's switch to the next. Now, this is an excerpt from the sales brochure showing all the radio stations and all the personalities you can pick up with the radio, which you can see in the bottom left. It had where those 5 cans are. That's where the tuning is for the radio, which is kind of unique. And these are, just stars of the day that they wanted to highlight. This is a pretty elaborate book, and I have a few pages from it in this slideshow. They were really trying to sell the features of this to an upper class, you can tell, because the book alone would have cost a lot to produce. If you want to switch to next, there's just a view of some of the back. They bought theirs from Simpsons. You can still see the stickers from the tubes on the vacuum tubes in the back. And at the bottom there, you have the transformer for the speaker, and the radio's up top. And you can see some of the guts of the record player hanging down there at the top. A lot of the wires just kind of loosely hang and just clip into where they plug into different spots on the boards. But it was fun to move. It was in a basement, and it was real. That's when I learned how to take out the guts before I moved stuff, because I could hear a lot of cracking and stuff when we were trying to lift it out when it was all fully loaded and it was just way too heavy. So I learned then, yeah, take the components out. The case weighs nothing, and then move the rest. Here's another clip from the sales book, just showing the extensive marketing they were doing. You can just flip through that, and there's some more detail shots. And there's the logo. If you noticed in that video that that Mike showed, or it was quite a bit different than the one that was made in Canada. So I like this one a lot better. I think they put a lot more effort into it.
Yeah.
Jeremy, why? Because the company was taken over, Victor was taken over by the Radio Corporation of America.
Yeah.
Why is that name not showing up by 1930?
It seems like they left for the marketing. They left a lot of it out there where they just kept calling it Victor. I don't know why. Maybe because they didn't want to redo all the stickers. I'm not really quite sure. Or maybe it became sort of an upper crust name. I don't know. Because it did seem to continue with a lot of their products where they didn't really throw RCA on there for a long time. Now you can see on the shot on the left here, the bottom foot, it's a bit of a different color than the rest of the set. That's because my friend made 3 of those up. 3 of them were completely destroyed and were teetering all over the place. So he took a good one and milled a few new ones for me. So when I do restore it, they'll all be colored all the same. But that one he just painted so it looks sort of okay instead of just plain wood.
You'd never know unless you told us.
He did a great job.
Yeah.
Here's just another detail from the marketing showing the knobs. Some of the knobs were missing on mine. I was able to find a bunch of them replacements down in the States. There's one guy called Gobs of Knobs who just had tons of stuff, and so I got a few from him and replaced those. But there it just shows another detail of the knobs. You want to flip the next one?
Yeah.
Some more detail shots showing the Cobra head, and they put a nice carving of the Victor dog into the top of the Cobra arm reproducer, which I really liked. So I took a nice close-up shot of that. But later on, though, they when it became RCA, they just put a plain plate over this, so they really look plain compared to this one. And I think that was part of that marketing that Mike was talking about, where they were trying to. They eventually did want to switch over to RCA, so they did get rid of a lot of that branding, right? And in this case, sorry.
I was going to say, like with the previous slide, the pickup itself, my understanding is they have like a horseshoe magnet in it. They're very heavy, and there's apparently rubber bushings and things, and the magnets sometimes will lose their magnetivity, and they can re-energize them and basically rebuild them. But they're quite different than anything you'd see today in a tone arm.
Oh yeah, it is basically a field coil in there, I think.
Yes.
You have to rewind the coil to get it to work again and remagnetize it. So yeah, that's going to take a little bit of work when I get around to that.
Yeah. The electronics too are so very different than, say, a radio from the late 30s or early 40s. It's very early electronics here.
Yeah. And here's just some details from one of the paper sleeves, just showing you the many applications that you can do. Your kids can record on it. You can mail a little letter. The whole gang can get together and have a karaoke party and all that kind of stuff. Or you can record off the air. I do have quite a few records that are recorded from the air, where it's just sort of like a sound check of different radio stations. A lot of times they would run through the stations as just a test, and they would record it. And I
just wanted to add to everybody. I think it was last year sometime. Jen Hodge had one of these home recordings that she put in our auction, and it was when the King and Queen came to visit in something like 1935. And Jeremy, didn't you buy it?
No, I didn't buy that. It was buy for me, and I was worried about shipping, so I didn't go for that. Yeah, that was neat.
Either way, that was an example of things that people would record off the air.
Mike, I bought it. This is the record.
We can't see you. Oh, no, go ahead. We heard you. I can't see your picture. Whoever spoke up.
Oh, that's Steve O'Neill.
Oh, Steve, you've got it. Okay, great.
This is it.
Cool.
Yes, it was recorded from the radio, I think, in Alberta.
The one home recording that I have from the World's Fair is actually people at the World's Fair talking about how it was. And I remember them saying, "Oh, praise be to God. We're so lucky to be here." And we saw the Zeppelin and we saw this and this and this. And like all of that was at the fair. It was just amazing to hear somebody actually talking about it while they were there.
Right.
And here's just a sample of the different types of home needles. I already showed you those. That there, yeah. And some more. They're just all the different types of recording there, and that souvenir one that I showed you in the bottom right.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I have a question.
Yeah.
If I can, those needles that you used to record, did you have to use those special needles for playback as well, or did you use a regular needle for playback?
Oh yeah, that's something I missed. Yes, you had to use the same one to play them back too.
Okay.
Yeah, you would have to send one of those needles along if you wanted somebody just randomly to listen to your message or a record that you sent. So a lot of times, yeah, they'd send a couple along in that little sample pack. Because it's 7 mil wide. It is a very wide stylus. I can't even play it back on a piece of modern equipment. I have to get a specially made head for it to get it to play. So I've got something that's close now, but yeah, I need to get one that's custom made to play those back. So that's one of my next projects too. No problem. And there's the carbon microphone and some advertising to go along with it. Of course, they got the little girl with curls there. That's sort of a Shirley Temple type to, test out the home recording with your folks.
Even a child can use it.
Oh yeah. And here's some more applications. A businessman in the top left dictating to himself. He doesn't even need a secretary. He just talks on one of these records, which the records aren't very long at all. He would really have to run back and forth to that to do what he's doing right now. So and just some other situations here, you can use it as a vocal snapshot for your son. You can hang out with the party, with all the debutantes, and there you go. And some accessories that came with it. I don't have the electric motor grease, but I know they did supply that with it. And then that's that little bottle of motor oil that I have. And then this is the brochure again, where all the stars from RCA are endorsing the RE57 on how great it is and how theirs is amazing and all that sort of thing. Not that they're employed by RCA or anything, but there you go. You got some, like
Rudy Valley.
Lawrence Tippett, Rudy Valley, a few very famous people there. And then this is the whole line of that year's radios that came out with different features. The two on the left and the one on the far right are just straight up radios. And then, you have the radio Electrola as well. But they're all very similar. They all had the exact same radio and just a different cabinet pretty much. That's just the front where it shows on the left about home recording. And those the other advertisements again from those magazines that I showed you earlier. And then this is some close up. I went through all the newspapers that I could from Toronto and got a lot of the local newspapers and cleaned them up and got all the advertising that I could for the RE57. It was sad though, as things went along and the Depression hit, you got to see the prices go down and eventually it gets put in the sale bin. But yeah, at one time this was the cutting edge of technology. This was the big screen TV of the day.
Yeah. I noticed they advertised that it's batteryless radio too. That was a feature. You just plug it in the wall.
Oh yeah, that was a big one. That's the cover of the sales brochure. I was lucky to get this. It's the only one I've seen of it actually.
Wow.
That came along on any auction or anything. So it's the American version of it, but I don't know if they even made their way up here with the brochures or not.
Okay.
So that's pretty much it.
Phenomenal. That's a wonderful machine you have there, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeremy about comments?
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Don.
This is very interesting because I restored a 1929 broadcast transcription turntable.
I
that
remember your
were
video.
used for playing to a lot of these radios. And the interesting thing I find is the model number on that transcription turntable that was used at the broadcast stations in Western Canada, actually all over Canada, was model number RE70. So it's interesting, the RE model number was a carryover between Victor and RCA Victor. So interesting. The turntable has gone to Alberta Archives along with some other broadcast gear. So this is a very interesting presentation. Thank you.
Nice, thanks.
Paul Doddington here. I have an, can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you, Paul.
I have an RE81 that my father bought brand new in 1932 because he was a concert tenor and he wanted to be able to record his own voice. And it works. And I have it. I don't know how to show it to you. It's right here. But it's got the same Cobra arm. It's got a very different microphone, a much more conventional looking mic with a big long string on the thing. It has kind of a view meter on it. I don't know just how to show it to you. I guess I can't, but anyway, it's an RE81 and it still works. And I can tell you who can fix the electrics on it.
I would love to know that.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, his name is Art Drimmy, and he lives off the Bronte Road in the west end of Oakville. Do you want his phone number?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Okay, here you go. 905 301 4625.
Great, thank you so much.
You can trust him because he does all the work for the collection that that chap that owns TV Ontario, not TVO. What is it?
Is it MZTV?
Yeah. Znaimer.
Yep.
Moses Znaimer.
Yep.
Moses Znaimer, yeah. And this fellow repairs all his stuff. So you can trust him, and he's got tubes and all kinds of neat stuff.
Oh, that's
I know.
Thank you.
Don here. I know who he is.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Very reliable.
Yes, he is, and he does a good job.
Yeah.
And but you know the capacitors go in these things, and I think you have to replace those. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, they dry out. So that's one thing I made sure to do is not plug it in because I know.
Yeah, don't play it. You might wreck some of the tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it have one of those mercury vapor rectifier tubes in it?
I don't think it has that. Yeah, I'm not sure though.
Okay. Well, mine doesn't. It's wonderful at night to watch this thing going because there's all these sort of lightning flashes on the wall behind the machine. But yeah, they're a lovely machine. And I remember as a boy, this thing would blow the roof off the house. They're really loud. Ours not as loud anymore. I don't know why, but it works. So I don't mess with it, you know.
I've heard a few of these in person, and I've really been wanting to restore this for a while, but I didn't really know anybody that was that great at it especially because of the coil winding and all that sort of stuff. So thank you so much. I can't wait to get in contact with them.
Yeah, well, I think your reproducer might be okay. You might need to recharge the magnet, and I have a charger if you need to use that. So
cool.
There you go. I recharged the one in mine and helped a bit anyway.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
Sure.
Apparently,
thank you very much, Paul.
I heard you can get the blanks somewhere now. Someone's making the blanks again so that you can record on these too, but that's going to take a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it might interest you to know that the group of engineers who designed that machine and actually designed the vinyl for the records are the ones they were all fired from Victor, from RCA about 1933. So they all went over to Columbia, and at the end of World War II, they came out with the LP record. And so it's the same guys, same bunch of engineers who did that created the LP that was so successful.
Oh, wow.
I can verify that story because I can
Your
verify
machine is 3 1/3, doesn't it?
John, you wanted to say? Go ahead.
I can verify that story that the Columbia guys then did some under-the-counter sales, and I got a hold of some 16-inch transcription recordings of the Great Gildersleeve, which was a series that was aired on not just Canadian stations, but American as well. So it was an interesting time.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, anyone else like to make a quick comment? And then we'll move on. Okay, thank you. Hi, Richard.
How many things that we have in the auction today, Mike?
We've got 2. We're going to get to it soon, Richard. Just hold on tight.
No
We've
problem,
got one more quick little video. So Mark, this is going to be a little teaser that you suggested that we could show today. And it's got to do with an article coming up in the next issue of the Antique Phonograph newsletter. Can you tell us something about it?
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, about a month and a half ago, someone sent me a photo of a Berliner gramophone that I'd never seen before. And from what was written on it, it was Canadian. And I was like, whoa, this is a hand-driven little gramophone that plays 7-inch records that I've never seen. So I contacted a few people to see if they had recognized it. Someone out west said, yeah, that's the child's phonograph that someone saw in an ad in Roll Back the Years, which is a really good book that was produced in Canada. So I looked it up, and yeah, there it was in a French ad from about 1901. So I contacted a few other people as this machine was being brokered for sale. And I found out who actually ended up buying it, and I contacted them. And I contacted through Wayne, Alan Konigsberg, who did some research on it. I did some research on it. Wayne did some research. So we had a bunch of people looking for information on it. And we tracked down quite a bit of information on this machine, which is, as far as we know, the only one known. So it's probably the rarest Canadian Berliner gramophone in existence. And so I'm going to be publishing an article on it in the next Antique Phonograph News. And the owner of it sent me a video saying, would you like to see it working now that it's been restored? So he sent it to me, and I thought, oh, that's great. It's quite interesting to see. So I thought we'd show that today at our meeting.
Okay.
So Mike, do you want to show that?
See if we can get that from video share.
I was shocked at how loud the volume was on it. I know it's a later record, but it's very loud and clear.
Yeah, it's a later record. Those reproducers were really good.
Yeah.
When they're rebuilt. Yeah.
And where is this fellow located?
Who owns it?
Yes.
He's in the US somewhere. I'm not exactly sure, but he sent me a couple of pictures with this machine showing his collection in the background, and I just about had a heart attack. I mean, he had some of the rarest machines I've ever seen, like groups of Bell Tainter graphophones. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So I said to him, well, after you send me these photos, can we get some photos of your collection, and maybe I'll do an article on that. He was quite enthusiastic, so I may follow it up with what would be one of the best collections in the world.
Wow.
Of rare machines.
You got it there, Mike?
Oh, no, I've lost how to share. Not that one.
While you're looking, I was going to mention something. When a speaker is speaking and they're not sharing their screen, so I don't know how you guys, everyone out there has their screen, but mine is set so that I'm seeing all of you in little boxes, right? And a lot of you may be doing that. So when someone is speaking or presenting, you may be only seeing them in this tiny little box on your screen. If you go to the top right and move your cursor around, you'll see the word view pops up.
Mm-hmm.
If you click on that, you have some choices. You have full screen, speaker, and gallery. If you go to speaker view, then who's ever presenting takes up the whole screen or most of the screen. And so you can see what they're talking about. So when Jeremy was speaking, I had to do that to see him. So he wasn't just a small, tiny box. And then when he was done, I just switched back, clicked on view again, went up there, moved my mouse around till the word view popped up, and I switched back to gallery. So that might be helpful for some of you.
From my perspective, I have it set on speakers so that, say, as you were talking right now, Mark, then you pop up on the big screen. And I find it easy because whoever is speaking now sort of like shares the screen. And although sometimes it doesn't always work. And that's why I have to say, okay, who said that? But,
yeah. So that's, but at least, because I think some people are looking at it in gallery view, and that's not really that good.
Right. Okay.
I see a look of success on Mike's face there.
You've got it. Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. Yeah. Seeing it all right now?
Yes.
I can't hear it.
No. Why no volume? Oh, okay. Sorry. But anyway, that was a taste of what's.
So that's what it looks like. And there's good news, everybody. In the article that I wrote, I put in a link to that video. So when you read the article, if you read the PDF, just click on the article or put the link in your browser, and you'll be able to see that video live.
Great. And the article is about the fellow's collection or just that machine?
Just that machine and what we found out about it.
Cool. Well, it sounds like a collection we can certainly tap for future articles in the future.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Definitely. Okay. So I guess if there's no other comments from anyone, and unfortunately we couldn't show the sound of that video, but at least you got an idea of what it looks like. We're going to take a quick little break and then go on to our auction, which has two very interesting machines in it.